Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video where I'm beading a bracelet, and as I bead the bracelet I'm going to kind of go over some tips and explanation about the beads, bead sizing, materials that you need, and just a couple of tips on making your bracelet last. So what you're going to need is you're going to need cord, whatever string you're using. You're going to need some type of glue at the end to secure the knot, and I'm using GS Hypo Cement. If you are going to use charms on your bracelet, you would need your charms. And then you're going to need a tape measure so you can measure out. You're going to need scissors or something to clip your string with. And then I have jump rings that I'm using to put my charm on, as well as the tool that goes with it. If you have nails on and you find that it's hard for you to pick up beads, you can also use a tweezer and a bead stopper to help your beads from falling off the string. I already have my pattern laid out on what I'm going to be using today. I'm going to be doing a bracelet for a female, so this is the pattern I'm going to use. I have a feature item on my website, and so my feature item is going to be red and gold because Valentine's is coming up, so that is going to be the item that I am going to be doing for the demonstration of this video. A lot of times I have a design in my mind, so I have beads laid out because that's the next pattern I'm going to be using. So I have my male bracelets, which I tend to use hemp cord with because it's stronger, and also I do square knot design so they can adjust it according to their wrist size. I find that a lot of the females are an average of 7 inches, so that's the standard that I use when I'm doing a female bracelet. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So first thing I want to do is I want to take my string, and I'm using elastic cord, and I get this in bulk from Michaels, and I like to get this because depending on what I'm doing, the bulk size come in 4 different sizes. It comes in a 0.5, which I'm going to be using today, and then it has a 0.7, and then it has a 0.8, and then it has a 1 millimeter. And so the size of the string will determine, you will pick the size of your string based off your bead. So the heavier your bead, the more you want to use the stronger string, which is usually a 1 mm. I'm getting tongue tied. So 1 millimeter string. So you pick your string to pick, depending on how heavy your bead is. So if you have a heavier bead, you want to use a stronger string, and so forth. Now the difference between the bead and the bead size, you have to know. So when I first started out, I would always tend to gravitate towards the 6 millimeter, 8 millimeter bead, which is different from 6/0 or 8/0 or 9/0, because the 9/0 is referring to the odd size. So that's basically meaning that you can get that many beads in a length of 1 inch. So if you have a 9/0, you can get 9 beads. If you have a 6/0, you can get 6 beads in a length of 1 inch. So that is what that is referring to. That is referring to the whole of the bead, whereas millimeters is referring to the size of the bead. So that is one thing that I would commonly get mixed up, is knowing the size of the bead and the whole size of the bead. And so what you want to do is, once you've cut your string, which I tend to give myself 2 to 3 inches extra than what I need, so that way I have enough string to be able to tie the knot at the end. So first tip is to pre-stretch your cord to preserve your beads. A lot of times people say that their beads pop or their bracelets don't last that long and they pop. And one of the tips to cure that is make sure that your string is nice and pre-stretched. You know, you don't have to overstretch it, but just give it a few, tugs throughout the bracelet throughout the string before you actually put the beads on. Another tip would be to make sure that you don't use crimp beads when you're making a bracelet, okay? Because crimp beads are usually made with metal, and so what does metal do with plastic? or the elastic, it cuts through it. And so if it cuts through the string, and chances are it's gonna pop. So I just recommend that you don't use crimp beads if you're using plastic string or elastic string. If you're using beading wire or you're using hemp cord, then I would say that you're safe to do so. The next thing would be that a lot of people tend to stretch their beads or their bracelet over their hand. And so you don't want to do that. What you want to do instead is, if you're going to put on a bracelet, you want to kind of, if this is my hand and I'm using this hand to demonstrate as my, this as the bracelet and this is my hand, what you want to do is put your bracelet over and roll it over to your wrist. You don't want to stretch it out. You want to kind of just put it there and roll it over. So that will help preserve your bracelet from popping as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue doing this. I'm going to speed it up, speed the video up. Okay, so now we're ready to end the bracelet. So what I usually like to do is measure the ends so that way I don't have more on one side. So when I go to do the knots, I know that I have a nice size on there. So what I want to do is go ahead and the surgeon knot. So you want to take this and you want to wrap it around underneath. Hope you can see that. And then you want to take this and wrap it underneath there. So you go ahead and you do that and you pull it real tight. Pull it real tight. Okay, so then I'm going to do a regular knot. And I'm going to do it like that. And then pull it real tight again. Okay, so the key is to make sure you're pulling it real tight at the knot. And then I'll probably do it one more time just to make sure that we have it safe, secure, nice and secure. Okay, so after I've done that and I've made sure that I've pulled it and it's nice and secure and it's not going anywhere. Now again, this looks smaller because I'm using smaller beads. If I was using bigger beads, 7 inches would be a little bit bigger than this. But since my beads are a little bit smaller, this looks small. So what I want to do is one of these ends just to kind of hide the knot, and I will string it back through the bead. And this takes a little bit of patience because you've already had strung through the bead the one time. So putting another end through it can be a little bit difficult, but it definitely helps with making sure your bracelet lasts. So if I am struggling sometimes, like I am now, what I would typically do is take a needle and I would put the end, take the needle and I would put it through the bead, which is another little tip that I do if I'm having a hard time stringing it through. And I'm using a collapsible, I'm using a big eye needle. That word is not coming out of my mouth today. So I'm using a big eye needle and then I put it through and I pull it through the bead. And then once I get it, I pull it through. And just be careful not to really pull it because you can clip the string. So now that I have it pulled, I just want to pull it. And so this will help you hide the knot because it'll usually pull through so that way you can pull it through the bead. Okay. And another way you can hide the knot is you could use a bead covering or use a bigger bead to close it off. But sometimes that's a little bit obvious and I don't like to have my bracelets as obvious. So what I'm gonna do is make sure that you cut the knot, cut the string, the ends of it as close to the knot as possible. Okay. So after you've done that, you've cut it off and you can barely see it, okay? So then you want to take your glue, and it has a tiny little hole, and it's nice because it gives you just the amount to dab on there. You don't need too much, just a little bit, just to close it off and to dab it. Close it back up, or else it will rush out. And normally I would let my bracelet sit, okay? So I would let it sit and let it dry, and then there you have it. You have your bracelet. And there, you have your bracelet and it's ready to go. So I would let it sit. But again, to preserve it, make sure that you don't stretch your bracelet out. You want to put it like this, and you want to roll it. Onto your wrist. And now your bracelet sits nice on your wrist, nice and comfortable. Okay? And the same thing if you want to remove it. You want to take and roll it down, and that'll help preserve your bracelet. Okay, but before I go, I forgot, I did want to put a charm on here just to show you for the purpose of this video. Putting a charm on here. So I have it. So I used to use split rings, but split rings, they tend to, you have to open them, and then they tend to not keep your charm on there as long. Like your charm sometimes can come off. But I find that if I using the split rings, that they don't really, I mean, if I'm using a jump ring, it doesn't really come off and it lasts on there longer. So what, I have this jump ring right here, and I have this, and they come in different sizes. They have big ones, small, tiny ones, depending on what project you're using or making. So with the tool, it has a nice little point, if you can see that. And so what you do is you put it right into the, and it pops it open. I don't know if you can see that, pops it open. Okay, so then once it's popped open, then all you have to do is put your charm on. I want to get down here a little bit so that way I have, and leave room for you to slide your charm on. Don't be like me, make things harder. Come on. Okay, and then you just want to slide it around. And then I'm going to do this one more time. I'm going to, as I have it open, I want to have this right in the middle. So I have 8 right here is where it's even at. Then once I get it on there, again, sometimes you just want to make sure you take your time. Sometimes everything works perfectly, and then sometimes it doesn't. So you want to make sure that when you're putting the charm on, that the charm is facing you, because you don't want it to be on backwards. So with the split ring, it's on there nice. Now, again, quick example, put it on, you roll it over your wrist. And now I have my bracelet on. Nice and comfortable. Adjust it to how I want it to lay. That's the nice thing about the split ring too, is that it can lay the way you need it to lay. So I hope you can see that. Okay, so that wraps up today's video. If you found this video helpful, I ask that you give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and notification button so that way you can know when I make another video and follow along as well. If you have any questions I did not answer, please feel free to leave me a comment, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.